Hello, everyone. First of all, I want to apologize for my background. This is where I teach, so that's why that looks like that. Sorry. But I read Welcoming the Stranger, Justice, Compassion, and Truth in the Immigration Debate, written by Jenny Yang and Matthew Soerens. So this book has truly become an essential resource for me because it is full of answers to these really difficult questions and arguments that we're facing these days in the realm of immigration. So I know many of you, just like me, are involved in ministries or activities or groups that help deal with immigration. And so we're constantly met with these arguments, and it can be so difficult to know how to respond to them. And this book, I find, was able to cover the majority of them. And with facts, with figures, as well as biblical principles. So I found that extremely valuable, and I've referred to this book many times this semester already, just to answer some difficult issues I've faced. Also, this book has done a very good job of explaining the fact that we're dealing with humans. We are not dealing just with facts and figures and numbers, but we are dealing with humans. And especially as Christians, it is essential that we emphasize that God has a specific calling on us and command on us for how to treat other humans in general, and a specific command for how to treat immigrants and the stranger. So I find that very important and something that lacks a lot in the conversations that I have with people around me, even those of the faith community. So that I think is very important. They also talk about the fact that we all are either descendants of immigrants ourselves, or the fact that we as Christians are immigrants in this world, that we're all traveling this world to get to our forever home of heaven. And so how we should live in that grace that we've received and give it to others and lay that upon others. And so that's a very essential thing that we need to remember and that we need to educate others on and remind them of, that their ancestors came from other countries, and how would we have wanted them to be treated? How were they treated? Remember our history and the terrible things that now we say, oh, that was awful, that happened, and it is. And then think of our situation now and reflect on that and compare ourselves and see, are we really doing better? It calls on us, the authors call on us to compare these things in light of our laws and policies that we have now, and how unfair and unjust they are, especially targeted towards certain groups and populations, and how harsh they are. One of the things that they mentioned in the book was the common argument that people say, well, why don't they just do it the legal way? If they want to come into our country, they ought to do it the legal way. And it made me think of everything that I've gone through with my husband, just trying to get a green card when we were married. It took us 2 years. It cost upwards of $2,500, and every time we got something wrong on any part of a document, and there were tons of documents, they would send it back to us and charge $500 extra for every mistake. And it was so difficult. He ran out of status in between that 2 years. We filed for every type of extension and protection, and you couldn't get them, and they all interfered with each other, and it was a nightmare of 2 years. It put a huge strain on our finances and our marriage in general, and it just gave us a really, really difficult start to life. And I mean, almost separated us, because if he ran out of status, what would we have done? And wasn't able to get a green card. It was very hard. Difficult decisions, and people don't consider that. They don't ask the questions often to ask, well, what are the processes to do it the legal way? Because sometimes, like the book states, and like what we experienced, there is no legal way. Going back to Nepal wasn't even an option, because he wouldn't have been able to come back. It's a lot more complex than people often want to say, and that's what this book has addressed through every chapter, is how it's so much more complex than a blanket statement that people try to make of it. They also talked about the benefits that immigrants have on our society, which are extensive, from economic benefits to the benefits that they add to us through their research and through their the STEM jobs and through the jobs with the medical field. So everything from menial work to these very advanced positions, how they contribute to us and just make us such a diverse and wonderful country in the aspects that we have that are going so well. Immigrants are a foundation of it. We could not survive as a thriving country without immigration, without an immigrant's work. So we have to recognize that as well. They do not drain from us, like people often say. They contribute in so many ways. I mean, our population is aging so much, and to have immigrants here who contribute so much just to Social Security is one major way that they contribute. But there are so many more, which would go beyond the length of this video to be able to say. The other main thing that they talk about in this book is the role of Christians. One, to affect change at a legal level, to evaluate our laws and our policies and see how unfair they are, and start making recommendations, praying over these things and trying to find new, better ways, more fair ways, more thoughtful ways to make laws which would be fair, be biblical to immigrants, and be a reflection of what God would call us to do. Not to just open borders, but to have the right restrictions, to restrict danger, but to allow people to come, and to make laws that make sense, that are fair and that are just, and that are the things that God will call us to be. So we need to be praying over that. We need to educate ourselves and educate others. We need to be more careful about the way that we talk about immigrants, talk to immigrants, care for immigrants, because while change at a legal level is a high goal, in the meantime, we can love the people who are around us. We can love them, we can serve them, we can include them in all that we do. And that was something very important that they spent a lot of chapters on, is how we can be inclusive and caring of an immigrant around us. The other thing that I wanted to mention is because the book did a wonderful job of addressing these things very logistically. But they didn't say necessarily a model that they had seen. And I wanted to mention the fact that I think that South Korea is a wonderful model for how to treat an immigrant. I've been to South Korea 6 times. I've been to every area of South Korea, from the northern border to a very southern island. And everywhere that I was, the people were so welcoming and so kind to me. They noticed if I was confused in a grocery store or walking down the street and I didn't know where I was going. They were very kind and very helpful to go out of their way to ask me if I knew what I was doing or if I needed help. Even those that didn't speak much English went out of their way to try. And it just makes you feel so much better, because it is such a scary situation to be in unknown circumstances, and it is so disorienting. And I just have always felt, every time I've been there, so comfortable and so safe and so at ease. And I just think that's a wonderful model for us to follow. When you see someone, just be conscious of that. Make an effort. Show interest in them on a friendship level and on a practical level. So I just wanted to mention that, because they do have a lot of examples in here of things that we can try and that we can do. But I wanted to mention that it is possible. I've seen it, and God has extended that love to us, and it's our responsibility to extend that love to others. So, going over time, but this book has wonderful resources, charts and graphs and information, stories, biblical basis, and things that we can learn. And I highly recommend that you read it and pray over the information that is contained in it. Thank you.